presents Haunted Hall.
Welcome to another edition, it's been quite some time, of Haunted Hall. I'm Louie. The Return. Haunted Hall, The Return.
The Return.
I'm Louie, and I'm joined by Manny. Haven't done one of these since 2023, technically. October.
I didn't even realize that until you said it. I was
Yes.
like, wow, I didn't realize it.
And we're covering a movie you picked. I think I picked the last two. So
Yeah.
this was one of your picks.
It's tough for me to pick movies because the ones I wanna cover, either you don't have it or it's just so like weird and obscure that I can't find any information on it where it's worth spending an hour or so talking about it, you know? Where it's like, we just watched this movie and I don't know anything about it.
I just watched this movie, know nothing about it. All I know is the 90 minutes that exist.
Yeah,
you said obscure, but I think what we're covering today is pretty obscure too.
It's kind of obscure, but it's relevant.
Yes,
It's relevant in the film itself.
Yeah, that's a safe thing to say when it comes to the movie we're covering, which is Zombie Nightmare.
Zombie Nightmare.
Well, looky here. Aren't you in the wrong neighborhood, little girl? Looks like I missed the start of the party. Why don't you show me where the guests are going? Get in the car, witch.
Now, I'll be very honest. This is a first-time watch for me. I have not. This is new for Louie. I don't
That's
know
exciting.
why. I didn't even know this movie exists.
Yeah.
Existed, funny enough. And when I was doing some research into the different releases that do exist or did exist, because you'll find out this is kind of a hard movie to find on physical media. A physical release of it, you have to basically go on eBay, or even I think Amazon's a bit iffy right now. And you off air, you did a Google's, or you did I forget what site did you check? We'll just get into it. What
Dark
site
Force,
did you check?
I got it from Dark Force Superstore. I got it. They did that Mirror release, and they did the Freeway 2 release. I have a bunch of their stuff.
And you gave me this copy because you had two of them.
I accidentally bought two. I saw that they had it on sale recently, the Blu-ray, and it said like 8 copies left, and it was like $7.99. And I was like, "Oh wow, that's crazy!" So I saw it, and I have the My Movies app that's catalogs all the movies I have, and I searched, and it wasn't in there, and I'm like, I was at work, so like I couldn't even go check to see if I had it. So I was sitting at work when I was just scrolling through. I saw it. I'm like, $7.99. What are you kidding me? I opened up my app, and the Blu-ray, it wasn't there. I was like, how do I not have this? Like, how is it possible? So I bought a second one. Then I went home. When it came in, it was delivered. I went to put it on the shelf with the rest, and there it was. Like, I was like, you fucking kidding me? I already had it. But for
it worked
$8,
out. Yeah, it worked out too. So
it did. It worked out very well. So let's explain why.
Well, so this movie apparently, and we literally just learned of this, is out of stock on several websites when it comes to the Blu-ray release. Now, from what I could see, you can find a region ABC import of it.
Okay.
Relatively easy for around $26 to $40.
Jesus.
It depends. I am seeing this Blu-ray on eBay for around $30. You spend $8 on it, so
yeah, I'm pretty sure that the first time I bought it, it was also about $10, maybe $12.
Okay.
So I've spent maybe $20 on 2 copies, and it's their normal price was like $30. Most of Dark Force's Blu-rays are about $30.
Yeah, because I even see a UK import here on eBay, which eBay's always a gamble, but prices can fluctuate like crazy on eBay. One day a movie can be $12, and then the next day it can be $60.
You get 2 people who really wanted it. Next thing you know, they're bidding war for it.
Yeah, and it's gone. But right now it seems like if certain releases, like there's even one here on Amazon currently for $40. It says the Media Book Uncut. I don't even know what that is.
That's a German release. Media books are big in Germany. It's literally like it's got the hardcover. It's sort of like a DVD clamshell.
Gotcha.
They look really nice. Yeah.
So it's almost like a VHS kind of similar packaging,
but DVD
size.
DVD. Yeah.
Interesting.
In that Witchboard back there, there's the media book of Witchboard.
Oh, it came with it.
It's inside it. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. This is not the most exciting release. And we're gonna go, and I have a not in a bad way. I mean, as in just presentation, it's just a standard Blu-ray. Even the inside, there's nothing
in there. Yeah,
there's nothing, no slipcase, none of that stuff.
The features are, I feel they're kind of hefty for what they are.
They are. And before we get into this Blu-ray, let's talk about some other releases and where people can watch this, because I feel like sometimes we miss that whenever we do these episodes. Where if people don't want, because physical media is niche. Not everyone wants to go out of their way to buy a DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. So we'll start with that. Where can you watch Zombie Nightmare currently streaming? Tubi, which probably means it's on Amazon Prime as well somewhere, and maybe Pluto TV.
It's on YouTube too. There's a couple versions on YouTube.
Good quality on YouTube?
No, not as good. One is decent. The problem with YouTube is I found at least 3 different copies of it on YouTube where, because of the music that's on it, they muted the spots with the music.
Yeah.
So the movie just goes mute for like 3 minutes at a time.
Especially when you have a 90-minute movie. I'm surprised they didn't just take it down or mute the entire video. I'm guessing
it seems like the uploaders. It seems like one person uploaded it with the music already muted, but like the dialogue goes mute. Like it's just blank.
Unwatchable.
Yes, like the sound just goes out for 2-3 minutes at a time. And in the first half hour, there's maybe 4 different spots like that. It's like, what are you kidding me? It's the beginning of the movie. And it seems like 2-3 other people just copied that.
So they just basically ripped it and then uploaded
and then
it,
put it back up,
re-upload.
and it's still missing the audio. And then the Mystery Science Theater version is up there too.
Which we'll get into as well. Yeah. So, when we get into the history of this movie, which this movie's got a very deep kind of behind the scenes drama associated with it, which we'll get into. Honestly, I'm going to say it right now. The entire behind the scenes story of this movie is better than the movie itself. If I'm being
crazy, man.
And learning about that is what made me appreciate the movie more. Yeah. And we'll get into that. But yeah, so the first, to my knowledge, what I could find, the first release of this, and it plays into the actual release of the film, is the New World Video original VHS release, which I believe, from what I could find online, was 87, because this movie, and we haven't gone into the, the logistics when it was released and who starred and stuff, but this film was released, I believe, in 86.
Wow.
Correct? Yeah. It was made in 86, and this VHS, from what I could see, was released in 87. And spoiler alert, in our backstory, this was a straight-to-video movie, home video. This movie was made, they wanted to release it in theaters, but that wasn't going to happen. Yeah. Basically, it was home video, pushed out to that. A few years later, and I believe it might have been 2008 or 9 or 10. I was trying to find the exact date. I was having some trouble. There is a Scorpion releasing DVD of this film, which, are they even around anymore? No, they're gone.
No. Yeah.
Who devoured them up and grabbed everything?
Dark Force took some Scorpion.
Yes.
And Kino Lorber has some Scorpion. So I don't know exactly what happened. My guess is that when the company went under, and maybe they were in debts or something, so they just sold off the rights to their films piecemeal.
The whole catalog, probably.
Yeah, to pay off debts. I know Kino Lorber did a bunch. I know Dark Force did a bunch, and I've seen Scorpion release some others. I've seen both Dark Force and Kino Lorber use the Scorpion releasing logo too.
Interesting.
So I really don't know the deal with what happened with that. And Dark Force also has Code Red, which I believe was part of Scorpion. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, weird. So I guess it must have just been one company gobbled them all up, or gobbled up some of the movies that they had in their catalog. Weird, especially like when you think about all those boutique DVD distribution companies in the 2000s, like I guess between like 2005 and like 2010, 2011. I guess a bunch of them went under, and then that's what happened. With they got all these films and they just couldn't keep, especially with physical media dipping out. I feel like physical media comes and goes so much with like just boutique releases of certain movies and things like that people want, especially with special features and things like that.
It looks like around 2013 was when 2014 is when Scorpion kind of ended. It looks like one of the last couple releases were Flavia the Heretic, House on Sorority Row. Yeah, 2014 looks like their last official releases. It says that they're still. It says the wiki that I'm reading says that is a distribution company, so maybe they still exist in some form. And they just. But yeah, I honestly do not know.
Yeah, it's weird because I saw that, but you don't see them releasing stuff anymore. So maybe someone just bought the name. Maybe whoever ended up getting the catalog also just bought the Scorpion releasing name. Maybe, or
maybe they're just like, maybe that what's his name. That guy who died last year, Banana Man. Did you hear about that?
Vaguely.
he worked with Dark Force, but he was a big guy when it came to home video. Like the guy'd been working in home video releases since like the 80s. He is Scorpion releasing, or he was Scorpion releasing.
Okay.
That was his, from what I understand. I believe that was his, or Code Red, or however it worked. But so I'm thinking that maybe they own rights to movies, and then they just license them to others to release, and they just don't release themselves anymore.
That makes sense. They just have a catalog of movies that other people want to just put together Blu-rays and releases of. That makes sense.
Yeah. I know a couple other companies that do that are just, they're holding companies kind of. They get the rights because they just have deals, they have relationships with the with the producers or whatever, and then they make a deal to put it to another distributor. Yeah.
They can release like a whole, I guess, Blu-ray of a specific movie, and they have a limited amount of time, or like, I guess a limited amount of units they can release maybe of a movie. It's like a very limited. Again, a lot of these boutique companies do that, I'm assuming, with certain films, especially kind of like obscure ones from the 80s like this.
If we wanted to do something on that, Matt might be somebody who might be able to answer those questions.
Possibly.
To have him on and talk about that sort of thing.
Possibly. That would be a good idea.
Dead release labels and stuff like that. He knows a lot of those people. It's a good idea. That's an idea.
That is a good idea for a possible future episode tease there.
Yeah.
Next on the physical release of Zombie Nightmare, we've got the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, which also got a DVD release. It's a 1994 episode. So funny enough, this movie was being made fun of in the mid-90s, a long time ago when that show was airing episodes, which is also available on Tubi. So if you want to watch the Mystery Science version of this movie, you can watch it with and without the robots talking. So there you go. And I will say I did skim through the Mystery Science version.
I did too.
It's pretty funny. They're making fun of
There's a few
stuff.
moments.
It's a couple of times they made jokes of shit I noticed while watching the movie. I was like, okay, they noticed that shit too in 94. And that leads us to the Code Red Blu-ray, which is what we both watched this on. Now, this release, I wouldn't say it's a jam-packed release. There's not a 2-disc set with every single thing in it. Also, some of the special features, which we'll run down really quick here, you can tell these were shot in like 2005 or something like that.
They're definitely old features.
That's why I think that DVD was like 2005, between 2005 and 2010 at least, because just the formatting.
I'm going to guess around 2006, 2007 because our leading man, Thor, I think in 2007 he got on a new label or something, because this guy's still a musician today.
Yeah, he's still making music. Yeah.
I think around then in 97 or so he came back And then like 10 years, and then he kept doing, like he had stopped doing music for a while. And then in 2007 or so, he had like a big tour or something. And he was coming back. So I think that they might have capitalized on him getting his music, you know what I mean? Doing the music or whatever he was doing at that time.
Yeah,
You know?
That
sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds, even when you watch it, you can just tell that these special features, for the most part, I think minus one thing on here I had to have been during that time. It just looks like it. Oh, but yeah, let's run through what they have really quick here, and then we'll get into the fantastic film, Zombie Nightmare. So you've got apparently it's a brand new HD. Like, this is a new. I'm assuming compared to the DVD, this is a new kind of widescreen master of the movie. You've got an on-camera interview with Jack Braveman, which that's basically just him talking about all the films he made, because the guy directed. I believe he's produced and directed Snuff, which is another infamous video nasty.
The producer Fasano, you talking about? Yeah.
Jack Braveman.
The director?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get into all the back and forth with that. Who directed this movie?
Well, John Fasano, I thought he did that because he worked with Roberta Findlay. And Michael Finley did Snuff. Roberta Findlay did Blood Sisters. And he produced Blood Sisters with Roberta Findlay, and that's how the director of this found him. Yeah,
because there's a lot of drama because I believe John Fasano, and we'll get into it.
He's the producer, yeah.
But I think he technically directed, didn't he?
They both directed.
They both directed, but he wrote and didn't get credit for it.
Yes. There's
a whole bunch of drama. We'll dive deeper into that. But yeah, you've got an interview with Jack Braveman. Bravman, whatever. You've got an audio commentary with John Fasano, which he goes into great detail of all the drama.
It was great though. This was one of the coolest, most informative, commentaries that I've heard in a long time. And
guy died young too, you know that, right? He was like 52 or something. He died 10 years ago. Which is a bummer. I was looking up information about them. I was like, oh man, this guy passed away relatively young. And also some of the actors are on the Thor. He's on it with them, and Frank Dietz, which was I missed what was his position. Oh, he's the young detective.
Yes.
Because he's friends with John Fasano. He's actually he's been in all of his movies, all the metal rock horror movies he's made. I believe Frank Dietz has popped up in all of them. You've got the interview with John Fasano, and then the director Jack Braverman, because I think in this, the interviews are old interviews, but it's like a full-length document, kind of 25-minute long documentary with them, going into anything, and they obviously recorded these separately. These guys probably don't talk at all after all the shit that happened in this movie.
It seems like there's a lot of whatever. They don't keep up with each other for reasons.
It's, again, lots of drama, which again is more interesting than the film, and we'll get into that next. And then the last special feature here is kind of a horror host feature, which
I didn't watch that. I wanted to watch that one.
There's not much to it. We're not talking Joe Bob Briggs
just
quality.
The girl hosting it. The opening. Yes, I did watch that.
Well, there's an opening and a closing segment, and she's dressed up like a caveman. I mean this respectfully. I have no clue who she is. This is not a horror host I am familiar with. She did not pop up in the middle of the film, giving us insight or cracking on the movie. It was literally bookended. She opened up the movie joking around about being dressed as a caveman and talking a little shit, and then closed out the movie for about 2 minutes. Not much to it. I got excited. I thought maybe she would do more.
No.
And to my knowledge, there really wasn't much. Maybe I missed it. I did skim through the movie portion of it, but
I have a feeling that girl was like 10 when they made this movie.
Yes, probably. And for some reason, again, she's a cave woman in the scene, in her scenes.
But yes, it's John Fasano. He was. No, I don't see any of them having worked on Snuff, but I do know that Blood Sisters.
Okay.
That was Roberta Findlay. Snuff is Michael Findlay's movie, and she shot some of Snuff. Roberta Findlay did Blood Sisters. John Fasano, produced that.
Okay.
And Bravman saw that, and that's how he hooked up with him through that.
That's what it is.
Yes, but Fasano...
I knew he was in... Because Bravman and Fasano are the two guys that kind of were going head-to-head and having a lot of problems while making this movie.
Yeah, Bravman brought him on as producer. He wrote the script, and then things kind of went down there. But Fasano had directed Rock and Roll Nightmare.
Yes.
A year that, like, very recently, also with Thor. With John Thor in that.
Yeah.
And he also produced Black Roses.
Yes.
I think he directed Black Roses too.
Which is another classic.
Yes.
Which I'm a big fan of Black Roses. But yeah, let's just dive into the movie. Let's go through the logistics here, and then we'll go into a quick plot breakdown from you, Manny. I don't think this will be the most I don't think they got a lot to go by here.
You are disgusting. You're not going to get to your next birthday if you don't get your act together.
Of yours.
What did you say, you disrespectful punk?
So the release date, got no specific date. All I've got is a month and a year. October 1986. That's all I could find as far as when this was released. Makes sense. This seems like a very good movie to watch during the Halloween season, if I'm being honest. There's a certain vibe it's got.
Release date March 7th, 1988 in Canada.
And I've got October 1986.
Yeah.
For some reason is what I was able to find.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the official IMDb release in Canada. And this is a Canadian production. So yeah. Maybe they shot it in, you know.
Technically,
like you said,
maybe.
There's nothing.
Dude,
well, you know what? The Rock and Roll Nightmare was before this. So when was, let me see, Rock and Roll Nightmare was released, not a clue. I don't have a date for that.
These movies were just
1988
released.
as well. In 1988, it says Greece, in Greece, country of Canada.
Yeah.
So it looks like these came out closer to 88 then. Maybe they shot them 86 and...
I'm sure it was stuck in limbo. They probably couldn't get distribution because the movie was a turd and all kinds of problems. But yeah, we'll just go with October or March 1986 to 1988. Around that time is when this was released. It was directed again. Now this is where things get a little weird. Jack Bravman likes to take credit and is technically the director when you look up this film.
Yes.
But John Fasano claims that he directed like 75% of the movie and that Jack Bravman only directed scenes with Adam West and one of the other actors. I forget which one. He said it in the commentary and in one of the documentaries. Written also by John Fasano, who, like you said, Manny, directed Rock and Roll Nightmare and Black Roses. Two excellent metal horror movies that this fits perfectly in between.
Perfectly.
And it literally, when you look up the filmography, it is sandwiched in between both of those movies.
It's perfect.
Perfect. Honestly, you watch all three of these back to back, you could tell they were made by the same people.
Yeah,
like the
100%.
same. You could tell John Fasano made these movies.
That's why you said he claims he directed. No, I totally believe it.
Oh, no.
I totally believe he.
This is his movie. That Jack 100%. Bravman just seems like a businessman who got a little greedy. From whenever you just hearing
Jack Bravman was a porn director.
Exactly, he was
trying to get into regular film, and like most people, horror is where they start. Well, I'm going to make a horror film, so he got this guy who produced horror films.
And when you listen to John Fasano talk about the movie, you hear the passion in his voice.
Yes.
This was a movie he was disappointed that he kind of got the shaft creatively, especially with credit. And we'll get into that too, because there's a reason why he didn't get any credit in this movie, and it goes back to Canada. Yeah. But yeah, it stars Adam West as Captain Tom Churchman. You got John Thor as Tony Washington. You got Tia Carrere Schwing
in her first ever, first role.
Babraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
From Wayne's World. Come on,
Lincoln.
guys. Cassandra from Wayne's World. She plays Amy. This was the one I thought was interesting, and I remember I texted you about it because I was like, okay, really odd. Sean Levy, who went on to produce Stranger Things, a lot of Netflix shit. That
all the Night at the Museum movies.
Night at the Museum, the Unsolved Mysteries, the new version that's on Netflix. Interesting career. His career started in Zombie Nightmare. Crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I said earlier when I said that it's relevant today, I didn't mean the plot. I meant the fact that most of the people in this film went on to have huge careers.
Yeah.
With the exception of the producer and John Thor. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate that almost everybody went on to something bigger.
Oh, yeah. John Fasano wrote a bunch. If you look at he wrote a lot of movies.
But he never got much, nothing really went anywhere.
He was a talented guy, it seems, because when you look at his filmography, the dude has a ton of writing credits. He directed, these 3 movies that he's mostly known for. It's kind of wild. And then Sean
the Universal
Levy,
Soldier.
Yeah. Sean Levy went on to do huge things. So, and he just is
obviously
an actor
Tia
in
Carrere.
This. Obviously, yes. She went out. She became a big deal in the 90s right after this movie. So, again, like you said, it's kind of interesting to see all these actors started with this no budget, which I believe the budget of this was $180,000 from what I remember hearing, which is, for 1986, that's still a decent amount of money. It's still low, but for what they were able to achieve, it works. The funniest thing, too, was Adam West was on set for 2 days.
Yep.
And they milk him but they milk him in the movie.
They do.
Like, they stretch those scenes out with him to get him in as much as possible. Like, just to get him in as much of the movie as possible.
They also said that's him. They said if there's anybody who can milk a scene, it's Adam West.
Yes.
He will drag it out and make it his. He will just he will mug the camera every chance he gets.
Good old Adam West, man. Batman. Yeah. And what else? Another good movie that he was in around this time, One Dark Night. He's in like a couple of scenes in that movie, and he's top billed. Man, Adam West in the 80s killed it. He was just working on all these micro, low-budget movies.
I think
that's one I want to cover in the future.
Did they release that too? I have that Blu-ray.
I have an old DVD of it that was released.
I think MVD did. Okay.
I have an old DVD of it from a few years ago. I don't have a Blu-ray of it yet.
Yeah, there's the MVD Rewind Collection did it, and I have that.
But before we go on, and I think we're just going to continue talking about that behind-the-scenes drama.
There's a lot to it.
Manny, before we jump into that, hit us with the plot of Zombie Nightmare.
All right. So it starts in the 1950s. All right, and we're at a baseball game. We're at a little league or teenage kids baseball game. Young teens too. Couple of hoodlums. Oh my God, it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Couple of greasers.
Couple of greasers
are the hoodlums.
I have to say too that I noticed, and they said it in the commentary. The cigarettes. Did you hear we talked about the cigarettes?
Yeah,
he had the cigarette packet. They used to roll the cigarettes up in their sleeves in the 50s, and they did that. But the difference is in Canada, cigarette packs are wide rather than thick. Yeah. So when you see him you see the kid roll up the pack, he looks like he's got a book under his arm. And I noticed that watching the movie every time. And listening to the commentary, I'm like, well, there's the explanation.
That makes sense. Now you're right. It's like a bar of soap. He's
it's not even rolled up in his sleeve. It's just stuck under his sleeve because it's so big they couldn't roll.
He's got like an Irish Spring box underneath his arm folded. It is pretty funny.
It's ridiculous. And I always noticed that too. And then I'd listen to the commentary. I was like, well, that explains that ridiculousness. So anyway, so it's a couple of kids. There's a baseball game, and one of the girls, I think, was she in the baseball game, I believe?
Yes.
The young black girl is in the base. She's the only black girl on the team.
Well, she's sort of like wandering. I don't even know if she is. I think she's
there.
like watching the game. Is more like it.
And she walks off the baseball field after the game, and these two hoodlums follow her, and they decide they're going to attack her, rob her, rape her. No idea. They're going to harass the hell out of her, and that, like, you don't belong here kind of racist attack. And the coach from the team saves her and fights them off. And in the ensuing fight, they stab him, and they run. The coach's son sees him, because coach's son is with his mother far off, and they see him get stabbed, and so he watches his father die. And then we crossfade 2 years later. It is now, the little boy is now older. He's playing baseball himself, and this is John Micklethor. He's playing the son of the slain baseball coach.
Very jacked, and has a phenomenal mullet.
He looks like a muscle-bound David Lee Roth.
Yeah, I can see the comparison.
Like his face, his hair. He looks like David Lee Roth, like stuck on like a wrestler's body.
This is a terrible thing to say, but he's got a very kind of a very small, kind of smushed face. It's hard to explain, but yeah, that's a good description. That's a better description than what I'm saying.
I mean, David Lee Roth has a bit of a smush face.
Smush face.
He's got big hair and little face.
It's like the hair is bigger than the face. You know what I mean? He's kind of got that going with him.
And then they've all got the bangs that just kind of circles it. So
which smushes the face even more. It's like all bang and then eye, nose, mouth together, like in about this much room. So.
Okay, so he's I believe he's a teenager. Could be early 20s. Who knows?
Looks like he's about 27, 28 in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know if he's actually that old, though.
I think he's 70, I checked.
Now.
So he would have been.
Yeah, now, but he would have been. Yeah, he would have been in his 30s. He would have been early 30s or so.
He looks like a grown man, not a child.
No, not at all. Not at all. So anyway, he's loved by everybody. The town likes him. He's the very, like, he's almost like the Beeve.
Yeah,
like
a jacked Beeve.
Very smiling. Everybody loves him. Hey, Tony. Hi, Tony. You're such a good boy. Tony. Everybody loves Tony. So Tony goes to a store, and as he's at this deli with the most Italian deli owner in the history of the world.
Have you got the provolone?
Tony, will I forget how much your mama liked provolone, yeah? How is the new job working out?
Oh, it's not bad, sir. Except they want me to cut my hair.
Hey, Tony, you cut the hair, you lose the strength, no?
This guy is so Italian, his name must be like Mario. Like, that is how Italian this guy is.
Tony, you want the salami? We got the salami in the back. He sounds like, he is so Italian, he sounds like Mario. Literally, like Mario brother.
Mario Mozzarella over here.
Yes,
Mario Mozzarella. Mario Mozzarella, the deli owner.
the most Italian. He's like an Italian grandpa. The
100%
deli store owner. In Canada, which is what's great.
So Tony is now in the store talking to Mario Mozzarella, and he's buying something. He goes to the back of the store, and in the front, these two more hoodlums come in. Different hoodlums. Totally different hoodlums, 20-something years later or so. They come in, and they're going to rob the place. And Tony Thor decides, nope, he's a superhero. And he kicks their ass out the store. Simultaneously, across town, we have a group of other rowdy teenagers, also definitely not teenagers.
Hoodlums as well.
Yes, hoodlums. Group of rowdy teenagers. That is Sean Levy and Tia Carrere. That is their gang. I mean, it's not now. It would be funny if they were dating in the movie, but they're not.
No.
She's dating the other guy, but Sean Levy is the leader of this pack, and he's the reckless driver of the pack, and he's
the guy that's cool with everything edgy. Everything edgy.
Everything.
Is like, oh man,
he's the edge lord of the group.
Yes, he's 100%.
Yes. Yeah, he walks around with his switchblade out at all times.
Another
he never
flowing
puts
mullet.
it away. Yep.
Phenomenal mullet. Phenomenal.
He had a great mullet.
Excellent.
He had a great mullet. Like this, like he was. This guy, I mean, like, he could have been in a Breakfast Club or Pretty in Pink movie. Like his look. He's
say it
very
right now.
good looking. He's very charismatic.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite.
Is.
Yeah.
He's
I
great.
think out of the entire movie, he's the best performance.
100%.
In my opinion.
Yes, and he feels like he could have been in License to Drive.
Yeah, I agree.
Know, like he fit. He was the stereotype of every, like, you know, talkative, charismatic, kind of asshole 80s guy.
Yeah, for sure.
He nailed it. He
would have fit right in River's Edge in that
exactly.
group.
You know, he totally was that. So the fact that he got the biggest career of them all is really no surprise.
No, yeah.
You know, he's the standout. It's like when you watch Sharon Stone in Deadly Invitation. You can tell she's going to be something compared to the rest of them. You know,
she went on to be Sharon Stone. Like you could see it watching. You're like, I get it now.
Yes, yeah. You're watching the movie. It's like, yep, she's a star. So anyway, so they're driving. He's driving like an asshole. Why? We have no idea. He just is, and they're all yelling and screaming in the car, and the music is turned up, and he's enjoying. And just as Tony's leaving the deli, their car comes and they hit him, and they drive off. Tony rolls in the ground, and Mario Mozzarella comes, and two other guys happen to be driving by. Oh my God, Tony! What happened to Tony? Now,
all 5 people that live in this town that know Tony showed up to help him as he just got hit by a car.
They then carry Tony's body because they couldn't get an ambulance. They couldn't afford the ambulance. They carry Tony's body to his mother's house. This dead body of Tony. They carry him to his mother's house. They don't call the cops. They don't call an ambulance. They put him in the Mario Mozzarella's car. Oh no, the other guy's car.
The other dude.
And the
other random guy.
Yes, they bring him to his mother's house. Mom, who's on the porch, already crying when they get there.
Who for some reason is like 35, but they made her out to look like she's like 70 with like the wig and it's pretty silly.
So they bring her and they put his body down on the front lawn of like just in the driveway. Just lay him down as my Tony. And she tells them, do you know Molly McKembe? And she says, what? Molly McKembe. Go get me Molly McKembe. What do you want with that Haitian woman, Mario Mozzarella says. He says, she owes me a favor.
I want to know why she owes her. You never learn what the favor is.
Oh, no, you
about.
do.
Oh, you do learn at the very end. You're right.
Yes, you do.
You're
We'll
right.
get there
You're
later.
right. You're right.
Yep,
You're right.
yep.
You're right. You're right. I
So
forgot the big revelation at the end. My bad.
The big reveal.
The big reveal.
She says, go get Molly McKembe. She owes me what? How this woman is owed something to the Haitian voodoo princess that's in the town or whatever. Who knows? Molly McKembe shows up, and she says, what would you say? You need to bring my son back from the dead. Tony was a good boy. You need to bring him back. And Molly McKembe brings Tony back from the dead, and Tony then rises from the dead and goes out for vengeance for the people who killed him. He is now a zombie.
Film.
Yes.
A zombie revenge film.
Zombie revenge, and he kills them one by one, like almost like one every day or so. It's almost like he only has the energy to go out once and then he comes back. Because she's got him in the coffin.
She's controlling him and sending him out every night to go get his revenge. Which I do want to say the funniest thing about the zombie design, like Thor as the zombie, is so when you first see him, he's got the mullet. And for some reason, I think it's supposed to be he's decaying, but rapidly. He loses the mullet, and for some reason, the zombie costume gets bulkier.
You don't know why?
It's somebody else, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, because he only plays him for like a short amount.
Yeah.
They he said it in the commentary, right?
Yep.
Why that happened. There's a couple of weird, there's another funny casting thing that happened.
Yes.
I want to talk about later,
hilarious.
But yeah, it's weird how it's obviously someone else.
Yeah.
And I know it was recast, but there's a certain point where it's still Thor. But then it just turns into like a bulkier,
Um,
short-haired version of the zombie. It's weird.
I can tell you.
Tell me.
Originally, the film when they cast the film, the guy playing him was Pee Wee Piedmonte.
Yes.
He's a stuntman, and he's a famous stuntman. Not like everybody would know him, but he did like he was in a bunch of the Batman movies in the 90s.
Yeah. I remember hearing this. I remember hearing
Yeah.
this in the commentary. I remember
Batman
hearing this.
movies.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
in Buffy the Vampire
Yeah.
Slayer. He was a fairly well-known stunt guy. And he was playing Tony.
Mm-hmm.
He was cast as Tony. And they were shooting already. And they did a lot of the zombie stuff first. You know, all the makeup, get all that heavy makeup stuff kind of out of the way. And he's a bodybuilder. He's a big guy. He's a guy who's 6'3", you know, very well, just a big dude, very well.
Yeah.
You know, and you know bodybuilders like wrestlers and everything, they have a high calorie intake.
Yeah. It's
So,
a funny story.
Essentially, he spent the week and he ate all the food. He
Yeah.
he ate all the food for the cast and crew. Like, that's it. Craft services was his.
Yeah.
And after a couple days, maybe a week, they fired him. They're like, we can't afford to feed this guy, on top of the fact that he's literally eating everybody's food.
Yeah, you when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, it's all coming back to me now.
Yep.
Him and Jack Braveman didn't get along.
No.
So Jack Braveman's the one that fired him.
Yes, he was happy to fire him.
He said he was difficult to work with. He was like, oh, he was difficult to work with. He ate all the food. Now it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
So they shot a bunch of stuff with him, fired the guy, and then Thor came in to play
Yeah.
Tony Young.
Fasano,
and not
yes.
young, but human. The human form of Tony.
Yeah.
And then some of the zombie. Because in
Whatever's
some scenes, it is Thor as the zombie. You can tell. And then it transforms into this like big-headed, kind of deformed, like balding. It's weird, like zombie.
Because he's a totally different person.
Yeah, it was a different
Totally
dude.
different person. Yeah.
Because now I don't remember if this is in the commentary or not. Was that Pee Wee guy supposed to play the human version too?
Yes.
Before he was, so he got fired before they
they
could
got to any
shoot
of that.
all that stuff. That's where Thor came in and
Yep.
took over the role.
Yeah, after they
Hilarious.
fired him, Fasano happened to be talking to
Yeah.
Thor on the phone and told him the problems, and he's
Became
like,
he was friends with him already. So
Yes,
because
they-
of Rock
they'd
and Roll
already done
Nightmare.
Rock and Roll Nightmare, yeah. And he was like, I need a Canadian bodybuilder. Do you know any Canadian bodybuilders? And Thor is actually Canadian, but he didn't know that. They needed a Canadian bodybuilder because the actors had to be Canadian in order for them to get the Canadian tax credits.
Yes.
The production credits that they needed they have to cast Canadians. So he calls him saying, do you know any Canadian bodybuilders? And at the time, I think Thor was in England. He was somewhere in
Yeah.
Europe at the time that he
He
called
was
them.
recording like albums and stuff with all these
Yes.
different bands, which
Yeah,
we should
and-
talk about that too soon.
I have well, a little bit of that.
Yeah,
But yeah, he was recording his album. He calls him. Do you know anybody? He's like, I'm Canadian. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So he flew back. He flew over. He's John Fasano. I was like, you know what? I just made a movie with this guy. Great. Let's do it again.
Honestly, we didn't get a chance to see the Pee Wee guy play the human Tony,
No.
but I think casting Thor was the right choice. Who else would have been able to swing that bat around?
Oh, man.
Walk around with these jogging pants with his Johnson all visible in every shot. Yeah, dude, it's very distracting.
Yeah.
yeah, dude. So I'm going to take a step back and focus on that for a second. Thor
on his Johnson?
on his Johnson. So Mystery Science Theater even notices it too, because I put it on and one of the robots, I forget which one, he goes, "Oh my god," because he's like coming at the screen. He's coming at the screen, swinging, and I'm not talking about the bat. I'm like, so I'm watching it with the wife. She noticed right away as well. She's like, wait a second, that can't be real. He must have stuck a sock or something in there.
He probably did. And there's a funny story to that.
Yes.
The reason why he probably did that. Before he did this, Thor was working. I mean, he'd been a bodybuilder
Yeah.
since he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. He was working at this place. It was kind of theater, you know, where he was the naked waiter. Did you hear about any of this?
No, I didn't know about this at all.
This is I think it was like a restaurant or something that he was working in where it was kind of like live performance, kind of like a Chippendales thing, but I think more restaurant themed, you know? And he was he was the star because he was huge, you know, big body built guy, and women loved him, and he had a whole performance that he did with it and everything. And it was something like The Naked Waiter, or like, what do you tip a naked waiter? I think that's like the name of the show. And he did that for a while. And then I think a few months, maybe a year or so into it, the place hired this other guy who was a Marine or something, who had just come back. He's a tall black dude, big, had kind of a bit of an afro.
Yeah.
And this dude was hung. Like the way it's described is they said I think it was Fasano they were talking to. They were talking to somebody, and they said that Thor lost the gig by 6 inches.
Oh no.
So they said that Thor had a great body, and that's what women loved, but he wasn't like
his wee wee wasn't big enough. His wiener
he was small, but he didn't compare to this dude. And this guy wasn't built, but he was hung.
Yeah, there you go.
So apparently Thor ended up being cut from the show, and this guy got and he ended up getting an award for like a performance in some show, something
interesting.
You know? So now when you look at it and say that's got to be fake, it's quite possible that he wore something in his pants simply because he's been through this once before.
He was insecure about his dick size.
You know what?
Possibly.
You know what, dude? Steroids.
Maybe. Listen.
You never know.
Yo, dude. I'm just glad we took a minute or two to
talk about Thor's Johnson.
Thor's dick.
Thor Johnson. Not Tor Johnson.
Not Thor Johnson. No, dude. It's just funny because when you like, it's clear as day when he's like bouncing around, and it's funny because I'm sitting with her on the couch watching this movie, and she's like, "That's gotta be fake. What is that?" She pointed it out to me. I was like, "Oh Jesus Christ, you're right." It's not something I was going out of my way looking for.
Clearly, the wife was paying attention.
She noticed it and told
me. She
looked
and I was down like, and said, "Whoa, wait a minute here."
Listen, ladies love a guy in sweatpants apparently for that very reason. Apparently, so there you go. That's funny.
You know, and that's what they said about this. Like his show at this thing was huge, and one of his co-stars was his girlfriend at the time, and he was sleeping with everybody. You know, he was like, he said that he would go out, he'd do the show, and then he'd go in the back, get a blowjob from someone, and come back out for the encore, full erection. He'd full erection, he'd come back out for the encore, and then the women would go nuts, and his tips would go, they'd be grabbing his balls and everything, like grabbing his ass and slapping him, and he was like, and then this black dude shows up and totally upstages.
They were only able to fit 2 20s over his dick. The black guy, they were able to put hundreds over his dick.
They were folding hundreds.
Oh, God. There we go. That's what we do here at Haunted Hangover. Talking about Thor's Johnson. That's so silly. That's an interesting story, though. I did not know he did like a male stripper thing.
Yes, yeah, he did. I didn't notice. I didn't notice the size of the Johnson, but once you said that, I was like, you know what? It's quite possible that he maybe did. Maybe he did stuff it.
There was a noise. I'm telling you, please go.
See, look, I told you, there's nobody here.
So that's how he got the gig. Yeah. He took over for the stunt guy. Mm-hmm. And the other guy was fired for that. He was friends with him. Blah blah blah. So that's how David Lee Roth showed up to play.
That's how David Lee Roth showed up in there. And it's honestly, dude, to go back to the plot, because that's where this all was started.
Well, I was done with the plot. We were there because after that, it's, you know.
It is quite simple. There really isn't much to this movie. It's a zombie revenge movie. Mm-hmm. You don't even get to know the characters that well. They're all caricatures. The voodoo lady, the Italian grandpa, the 25-year-old, 60-year-old mom, Thor. It's and then the rebellious teens that kill him.
Which is
literally all it is.
Which is another thing that Fasano was upset about, because when he wrote it, the main characters were all black.
Yes, which I thought was interesting.
He wrote them to be all black kids, and that when Thor, that guy, is killed, he's killed by a bunch of white kids.
Yeah.
You know, so it his death mirrors the way his father was saving a young black girl from a couple of racist white kids. He ends up also being killed by a couple of racist white kids.
Which is fucked up, because honestly, that would have made the movie better.
Yeah, but
as a plot point would have made the movie better.
But it's also 1986. The producers
different time.
Yeah, the people paying for it did not agree.
And
they said nobody wants a horror movie with a bunch of black kids.
Which is fucking horrible to say.
That's exactly
and they
what
say
that
on the Blu-ray, in the commentary, in the featurette, they say that no one wants to see that, or at the time, no one wanted to see that. Which makes sense, because when you watch the movie, specifically the Mario Mozzarella grandpa,
Mario Mozzarella,
the Haitian voodoo priestess. If you think about it, she's probably the only aspect of that original story that stood in the plot, because they needed her to resurrect.
He can't. How's it?
The zombie.
Mozzarella's not bringing him back from the dead.
And that's probably why they made him like this random Italian, like stereotypical Italian guy, because they're like, all right, we'll just make the like store owner this random Italian guy instead of it just being like a black store owner, you know, or where it made more sense keeping them. Yeah, it made more sense keeping the characters the original ethnicity and race, because it would have helped the movie, like the story, it would have worked better. And then, we didn't get into the ending, and we didn't really even talk about Adam West, and we might as well, because we're talking about the behind the scenes stuff. But in a nutshell, there is a detective side story, very similar to The Sentinel, a movie we covered in the past, where you're following the rebellious kids being murdered, and then these two detectives, the older detective, the younger detective that's dedicated to the case, and then the older one that wants to brush it to the side and say, oh, we already found this thug. He's the guy that committed these murders. Yeah. And then even going back to the whole thing with them having to be originally it being a black cast, that would have made sense. This racist white cop, framing this
spoilers,
black man.
Spoilers. Stop dancing around it. Spoilers at this point.
Spoilers for Zombie Nightmare, 1986, in case you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But Adam West, Tom Churchman, is one of the young greaser 50s kids grown up who harassed.
He's the one who killed
the father and harassed the voodoo priestess when she was younger.
Yes, the little girl in the beginning is the voodoo priestess.
The voodoo priestess, yeah.
So favor, when the mother says she owes me one, it's because her husband saved her life when she saved the girl's life when she was a little girl. So she's like, now that you're an adult, you owe me this. My husband saved your life and died for you. Bring my son back to me.
And for some reason, that same girl became a voodoo priestess. When you see the younger version, when you look at the younger version of her, there's nothing voodoo about her. It's so random. But I was like, all right,
how
whatever.
She became a Haitian voodoo priestess in Canada
makes no sense, but it is what it is. And it's messed up because even us talking about just kind of the twist ending comes off as not random, but just kind of shoehorned in because of the changes made to the script, which it's like almost like a movie like this, if it were remade, would benefit from some of the original plot points being inserted back into the script. Because it would have, this movie, if it was, it would have almost been like the segment in Tales from the Hood with the politician that's killed by the racist cops.
Yep.
And then he comes back as a zombie the following year, and the one cop is kind of a good cop and he's black, and then he kills all the evil white cops. That's kind of what this would have been, with more like yuppie, evil white kids.
Based on how it was written, with the Haitian woman would have made more sense, especially because if they were all black, probably would have, then that means that the original script probably set it inside like a Haitian community in Canada. Like this is a native, this is like, so the fact that there is, like you said, the fact that there is suddenly this woman who does voodoo, it's not out of the ordinary for them.
Exactly.
Like it's like the beginning of People Under the Stairs.
Yes.
You know, she does,
great movie.
the sister does tarot and all that, and that's not a weird thing for them. This is
it doesn't feel out of place.
No, it doesn't feel
at all.
And in this it does. But if they had 100%. All been black, then it's like, well, this is their culture. This is a Haitian cultured film.
And there's even a scene with Adam West, and it comes off as like such a dumb line where he's like, she comes from the black side of town.
Yeah.
The only, like, there's only one other black character in the whole movie, and it's the janitor, which kills, 2 of the kids are killed in a tennis scene in a hot tub.
Yeah.
But that's
again,
really
that character would have made sense too, that he's sudden, that now if the 2 of those kids were black as well, then it's like, you know what, the janitor's kind of looking out for the kid. He's like, I'm not going to let them get in trouble. They're all right. Let's give them their, because he lets the kids sneak in and they use the pool and stuff when the school is closed or whatever.
Yeah. It comes off as like the producers of the movie basically fucked up the movie, had him rewrite it. Like John Fasano rewrote it, but it was the 80s and he probably didn't want to have to rewrite.
He didn't even rewrite it.
He just changed the names.
They changed
all
the names.
He did.
In fact, by he did he didn't even change the names in the script. He typed out the names,
I saw
cut them out of a piece of paper, and glued them into the script over the old characters' names.
Technically, you could have kept the entire film the same as the original concept, and it would have worked.
Yep. The film is almost word for word exactly. I don't know the difference between what they shot versus the script, but the script was not changed.
No, it was just the casting was changed, I guess, and that affected. Because again, thinking about it, the Italian store clerk would have probably been a black man, and it would have made more sense. Like, hey, Tony, blah blah blah. It would have just made more sense to the overall kind of story that they were trying to tell. It was like a woke story before that was a thing. Honestly, dude, the concept of this movie, even though when you watch it, if you did not know this information, you'd have no idea.
No.
You'd be like, why is there a random zombie Haitian woman in this movie?
But looking at it, it makes so much more sense
and it makes the movie better.
What he wanted to make.
Yeah. And it's sad, and we should talk about John Fasano and just kind of what happened to him and behind the scenes. When we've touched on it here and there, but I don't think we've kind of given it some time. It's sad because I said it before, this seemed like something he was passionate about, and the producers just butchered it. He even said in the editing, he wanted to edit it. He was willing to edit the film for free. He was like, pay for my hotel, I'll edit this. And they just refused. It's almost like they just wanted to use him because they needed someone with experience who directed a film. Yeah. And that was it. They were using a young...
And the editors even called him and said, can you send us the script?
Because they didn't know the order of the shots.
They just had footage. They gave us this footage. They didn't give us a script. And he's like, you got to be kidding me.
And it's sad because in one of the interviews, he says that there was this shot, like the Alfred Hitchcock kind of, what's the name of that? The Spike Lee does the same thing.
The Vertigo, the push.
The Vertigo,
pull.
Yeah. The shot where the person stands there, but the room moves, which is always a cool looking shot. They cut in the middle of it, which messed up the effect.
And then cuts back to it, Yeah,
it cuts back to him. There's scenes of Adam West with the script on his desk. And because he had to read in between takes, but for some reason they left in the shots of him reading the lines.
Kept the camera on him. Yeah,
on him. They kept the shots in of him reading the script to try to memorize the lines for the real take when he would move it out of the way. Yeah. So odd. And then John Fasano, you could tell whenever these interviews of him that he's so disheartened. Like, by what they did to this movie. Like, he's just defeated. He's like, it's not a good movie. He's well aware that his original idea was a cool concept, but the execution, because of these producers, it failed in all fronts.
So much went wrong that he himself, John Fasano, plays the coach that's killed in the beginning.
Yes, a
He
hilarious
plays
story.
that. And I know you wanted to get to the story,
Yes.
so I was queuing you up for it.
Yes.
You know, but John Fasano, this is how much went wrong that John Fasano had to play a role in the film.
Yeah.
Please, I know, I'm sure you're dying to tell this story.
So I thought this was amazing. So apparently John Fasano, who's also a New York guy from Long Island. I don't know if you knew that. He's a New Yorker like us. So I thought that was kind of cool.
The Finleys are from New York. Roberta Finley, those are all New Yorkers. Yeah.
I thought that was really cool that he was from New York. So John Fasano, he's a big wrestling fan, and he said his favorite wrestler of all time was superstar Billy Graham. And he was able to actually get Billy Graham cast as the father.
He would have been perfect.
Yes.
Superstar Billy Graham's son in the movie is John Mickle Thor.
Yeah,
yes.
It's perfect casting.
Yep.
And it's not a big role, so he would have only come down, I think, for a day. They said, shot the stuff, and then leave. But what ended up happening was they left him at the airport for like 12 hours, and no one went to pick him up.
They screwed up. They screwed up the flight time.
Yes,
he was coming in at like 2 or 3 a.m. and they thought it was 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, someone noticed it, and
that's crazy. And then John Fasano is the one that realized, like, you guys fucked this up. He's already there. Grabbed someone's car, jetted to the airport, and by the time he got there, Billy Graham had jumped back on a plane and left back to New York, I think is what he said.
Yeah,
so that sucks.
Yeah, one of the attendants there, he said, "Was there a big blonde guy here?" They said, "Yeah, he was sitting in that chair."
Can't miss him.
for about 8 hours. And then he decided to just get on the next flight home. And it's like, son of a bitch.
Isn't that crazy that if that would have happened today, like cell phones are such a difference. Like, it's so different now that would never happen today.
No.
Something like that would. Imagine superstar Billy Graham lands and sits in an airport
for
like
8
that
hours.
for 8 hours.
And he does it that way because, like you said, with no cell phones and communication being what it was, this isn't an odd thing.
No, it's
that
not.
You would go to an airport, and yes, sometimes people are late, especially him who's traveling all over the world
He's
for
a wrestler,
things.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's sat in airports. He's lived in airports for days on end, waiting for a flight or waiting for... And he just sat there, and eventually he's like, you know what, I'm done.
And it's funny because since he wasn't able to make it on set and play the character, like you said, John Fasano had to play it, and it's so awkward. It makes no... It's like, it doesn't even... it doesn't make any sense. He's not an actor. And
then he has to play the zombie at the end, too.
Yes, which was funny. They must have shot those scenes kind of in the same day or same 2-day period, I'm guessing, because they probably had it scheduled to only have Billy Graham on set for a day or two.
Yeah, because Thor isn't in the end. I think that's the other guy in the end scene, which means this was even before Pee-wee was fired.
Yeah.
So this was in the first week of shooting.
Yeah,
that this guy's eating all the food. They left Billy Graham at the airport.
Mess.
He's had to recast the whole thing because they decided we don't want black kids in our movies. Like,
so terrible. What horrible fucking people were involved as the producers of this movie.
They were supposed to shoot it in New York, but the production union wouldn't give them the permits.
Yeah,
and that's why they had to shoot it in Canada.
Yeah, and then I think that was why they couldn't credit John Fasano at all. Like, they credited him here and there, but I think I remember him saying either in the commentary or in the interview that the fact that they shot in Canada and it was all the tax stuff, they couldn't put an American because
as director.
Because of the money, the money that was coming in. So he basically got shafted. Like, he was paid, obviously, and all that. And I think he said he got paid like $5,000 for the whole thing, which is wild. And he got shafted all because of the greedy producers wanting to do things their way. And it's just sad because he was there for this entire production. He wrote
the script.
He wrote the script.
Hired this guy. Technically, he wrote the script.
He directed the movie. The other dude just kind of directed a small portion of it and took the credit. So...
Oh, man, the way he directed, too, the things that they said.
Oh, yeah. He was like, act like Columbo, and that one dude literally was acting like Columbo.
That was not Columbo. I don't know what he was. That guy was doing like Cary Grant on like speed. Like, he was, through the whole... That's what he would do. They said that they said his directing style he, like you said, he wanted to be, he just directed Adam West and one other guy, because that's, you know, the other guy was his friend, and everything else. He's like, yeah, you go ahead and take it. And when he was directing, he told him, in this scene, just be Columbo. He would tell Adam West, in this scene, you're Burt Reynolds in this movie.
You're Clint Eastwood.
You're Clint Eastwood. Imagine you're Clint Eastwood doing, and that was his directing style, apparently, which is why Fasano was like, I directed this fucking movie. It's like he had the guy was not a director.
The guy, I mean, and you could tell.
But I mean, being a porn director, that's pretty much what you're gonna do. Like, especially a porn director in the 70s and 80s, like, we weren't having stories. It was like, pretend you're Clint Eastwood and you're coming in. This woman, you're Clint Eastwood delivering a pizza. That's what we want right now, and go. Like,
that's the whole scene.
I mean, come on.
That's all your direction. No, it makes sense. I get that. And honestly, that's what hurts the movie. You can tell. Even in that one scene with John Fasano where he's like, I'm going to kick your ass. Like, even though he knew what he wanted, he just wasn't right for the role.
He really kicked the guy, too.
Yeah, I know. He wasn't a trained stunt man, so it made sense. And I highly doubt there was any kind of stunt people on this set. I highly doubt, except for Pee-wee.
Pee-wee.
That was it. And he was gone.
So he would have been doing all of it. And since he wasn't there, he's like, I kicked the guy in the face. And
thank God they weren't using real knives when with all the stabbing.
See your boys in white are moving right along?
Well, you probably noticed the lovely lady on her way out. Now the boys are trying to fish Lover Boy out of a swimming pool full of blood.
Let's rattle off a couple of things we really liked about this movie. And hit me with some of your favorite things about Zombie Nightmare. There's a lot to love in this movie.
There really is.
All ridiculous.
Like we said, first things first. Sean Levy is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I think he's so entertaining. I'm actually upset that he dies like halfway through. He doesn't make it to the end, and that kind of upset me because I felt like he was the big baddie. You know?
Yeah.
And the fact that he's not one of the last one left at the end is kind of like a missed opportunity.
Tia Carrere is the last one to die out of the group. It's so silly.
Well, I feel like he should have made it to the end. Well, I mean, technically the last one is Adam West.
Adam West. He's the big bad with the reveal.
But I feel like Sean Levy, so think of it like the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
You have David, and then you have
their father, the boyfriend, the mom's boyfriend. I forgot his name. Max. Yeah.
You have David and then Max, where the whole movie you think that David is the real bad guy, and then they kill David, and it's like, wait a minute, we're not changed, and then Max is the real bad guy. I feel like they could have done the same thing with this.
Yeah,
where he does this, and then him and the two of them, like, because basically he kills. I think he dies killing her or something. Thor.
He shoots Thor, shoots the voodoo priestess.
Yes,
and then Dad comes back as a zombie.
Exactly.
So and then
we could have had
underneath.
him kill Sean Levy there, and then we have the reveal of who Adam West really is, and that's when the dad comes out from the grave to finish it off.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That would have made more sense.
That's a great shot too. I love that shot because Adam West is all kind of cocky, and the guy is like, "Oh man, what am I going to do?" And then comes out of the grave, and he pulls him into the ground. And he's kill me,
yeah.
And he just watches him pull him like he pulls him into hell. It's such a cool shot.
It is a cool shot.
And he just, please kill me, shoot me, shoot. Like, no,
and he just watches him,
and he watches him.
Watch him get dragged down. That is it's funny too because Adam West. When you're watching the movie, you don't even really know where it's going with his character.
No,
he just kind of comes off. Honestly, I usually can guess the twist ending. And remember, I hadn't seen this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't even think that he was one of the young guys at all.
I think it's just because it's just badly shot.
It's just badly written. But not written, but badly put together.
It worked out to hide it from you. It really does.
It does. You don't even think about that scene by the time it gets. You're like, oh shit.
I forgot
He is one of the greasers. Because then he calls Sean Levy's dad.
Uh-huh.
Who's the other greaser.
The other greaser.
The old man who's 43 years old. Did you catch that? He's like,
He's old man.
The young cop runs up and he goes, "Why did they kill him?" He goes, "Oh, how old is he?" 43. They killed an old man? I was like, wait a second.
Dude, I'm 43.
I know.
I'm 43.
According to this movie, you are at the geriatric age. At this point, you are
I should be partnered with Adam West somewhere.
Yes. And that dude that played that character was obviously younger. You could tell they grayed his hair to make him look like he was probably like 60 years old.
Because Adam West, I think, was had to be
or 60,
he had to be in
about
his 50s
60.
by that time already.
50 or 60 at this point. Yeah.
You know,
it's
so
funny
they had to
because
make him.
what a bad
makes
line.
You wonder, like, because it's been like 30 years. That's the thing. That was in the 50s, and this is now the 80s, which means it's been almost 30 years since this. So it's like these are high school kids in their 30s.
And that guy is the old age of 43.
So, yeah, I loved that ending shot, and I really loved Sean Levy, and the soundtrack sells it. We'll get into the soundtrack later.
Yeah, that was what I was going to mention next. I was going to mention the soundtrack and
your
also
favorite parts.
One of my favorite parts is, dude, and it plays into the soundtrack, so I was like, might as well talk about it here. Dude, that opening 80s computer graphics, like the title sequence, phenomenal. It's so good. Yep. And then Motorhead, Ace of Spades playing over it. I was like, damn, how'd they land that? Is what I told. Like, just getting Motorhead. But then you think about it, it's 86, and then Thor was involved. But Thor said, I think he knew Lemmy, and he was friends with Motorhead. Yep. So and then that connection with the friendship that they had, they were able to get Motorhead on the soundtrack. But that whole intro with it saying zombie, and then the blue letters nightmare underneath it, and then Adam West's name and all the cool graphics and the fonts. So good. It sets the tone. You literally see Tony come back as a zombie with the voodoo priestess rising from the coffin to this awesome 8-bit graphic Motorhead infused opening title sequence. Dude, as soon as I saw that, I was sold. I was like, all right, how much better is this movie gonna get?
It was great, isn't it? It's fucking awesome. It's awesome.
I wanted to point that out because I just love. It's one of my favorite aspects. I love that opening title sequence. The cold open leading to that.
Ace of Spades, Ace of
exactly.
Spades.
Which everyone likes Ace of Spades, man. So.
Yeah, Thor knew Motorhead and Fasano through that, so that's basically their connections. They got him. There's 3 songs. 3 songs.
Thor.
No, he does 2 songs.
Well, Fist has a song
first
on
things
it.
First.
Yeah.
When we look at the cover here, music by Motorhead, Pantera, Girl School, and Thor.
Yeah.
Now, when I gave you that, I told you, look at the cover. What did you said? Pantera, Motorhead.
Yeah.
What the hell? It's a lie.
There's no Pantera on the soundtrack, right?
But there is.
But it's the old Pantera.
No,
it's Pantera before
it's
Full
not
Ensemble.
even that Pantera.
Really? What is it?
Thor has 2 songs on there. I got the names of them here. Rebirth and Midnight Man.
Yeah.
Okay. Thor's wife is Rusty Hamilton. At the time, she was his wife, Rusty Hamilton. She was also his backup singer.
Okay.
Her stage name is Queen Pantera.
Oh, God.
That was her stage name. And then she eventually shortened it to Pantera. Music by Pantera.
Wow, false fucking marketing, bullshit marketing on the dude. I was like, yo, where's Cowboys from Hell? I thought because it was 86, so I was like, oh, it's gonna be.
It would be magic metal magic,
like glam. I didn't think it was gonna be like Pantera we all know and love. I figured, but then I was like, did I miss? See, so I thought it was maybe one because another scene I like that I think is great. Is Sean Levy running around? I forget what he's driving. It's like that red car, the sports car. And he's just listening to metal, fucking speeding on the highway. It's almost like what Quentin Tarantino did in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but like the metal version of it in this movie.
I think that song is Virgin Steel.
I thought
they sound like Iron Maiden.
I thought that was the old 80s Pantera, because I'm not that familiar with
I'm not
early
I know
80s.
like 1 or 2 songs.
I know like heavy Pantera that we all know, like Cowboys from Hell on. So I was like,
not Diamond Daryl.
No, I was like, is that it? Because I was like, this is not Pantera. No one sounded like Phil Anselmo. So I was like, this is weird.
Yeah,
and I'm glad you clarified that for me, because I was like, where the fuck was Pantera on this soundtrack?
Yep, Pantera. That's Thor's wife. She's his backup singer. She sings vocals on. She's the main vocals on the song Midnight Man, which is actually a really good song, but it's just kind of crappy production value, but it's a really good song.
I'll be honest, dude, the whole soundtrack, regardless of there not being any Pantera on it, is great. So
yeah. So you had that, and you had Girl School.
Yes.
Girl School is a fairly big band. You know, they're still together today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually watched recently a lot. They were walking open air like 5 years ago, and they did a live show, and they still kill it. They're still great. Okay,
that's awesome.
They got on the soundtrack from Motorhead. Lemmy discovered them in like 79 or so. And he heard their single and loved them, and he put them on Motorhead's tour as an opening band and got them
oh wow.
Yeah, he got them their manager and everything because he really loved them. So I'm sure as soon as
still
Motorhead
plays back to Zombie Nightmare.
Yep, and I'm sure that's how they got on the soundtrack, and Virgin Steel, because these were all bands of that new wave of British metal.
Yeah.
These were they're all for the Virgin Steel and Girl School, and them they're all from that.
I'm hoping I'm right, but I think that album was 79.
Yes.
So it's a couple years at this point.
Yeah, but they were a different
released.
Style of metal, is what I mean. Like these bands were more in that kind of Iron Maiden, somewhere between Maiden and punk. And Motorhead was his music. Thing.
Thor, all his music was that style of. Yes. And I believe, since we're on the music, Thor scored this too.
Yeah,
I think all the synth, which
all the synth,
phenomenal,
the guitars, all that extra, it's all him. Yeah,
phenomenal score. It's all him. So even though he's only in, I'd say, maybe 20 minutes of this movie, he was still instrumental to the way all the music sounds and everything involved. Yeah, all the music. So, and it's funny because when you watch Rock and Roll Nightmare, Black Roses, it all makes sense that these this trilogy of films kind of, they work so well, and I think Thor is the common denominator in all of. So,
is he in Black Roses?
I think he's in Black Roses. I believe so. No,
I mean,
he's not.
Fasano.
No, he directed. He directed all of them. But regardless, he might not be in. He might not be in it. But he's not in it. My bad. He's not in it. But nonetheless, same flavor of movie.
And then what's funny is a couple years, what is that, 92 or so? 91, 92? Like 2-3 years later, Tia Carrere's career takes off by playing a musician.
Yeah, in Wayne's World, you're right. Yeah. So there you go.
Another little funny tidbit, which I'm surprised you didn't mention because I found this hilarious. Mm-hmm. Is the actress, what's her name? Linda Singer.
Okay.
The actress Linda Singer, who plays the girlfriend, the one who dies in the hot tub.
The one all white bikini, like bra and yeah.
Again, you watch that scene like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
She was 17 years old when they cast her, and they didn't know that.
Wow.
They didn't know she was only 17.
That happened a lot back in the day.
That hot tub scene, she was supposed to be nude. And that's in the script, that they're naked in the scene, and they found out she's 17, and they're like, well, we can't do this now.
Dude, I found that recently. That happened on a Friday the 13th movie. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but it happened in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Really?
They cast an actress. I found this out recently. I think I was reading a Friday the 13th behind the scenes thing, and they cast an actress because, back in the day, you could hide a lot of shit.
Yeah.
They cast an actress. She has a nude scene and a sex scene and everything. They had to cut it out because afterwards they found out she was like 16 years old. Well, dude, Tracy Lords had an entire porn career and she was underage. So I think in the 80s and 70s and 80s, some of these actresses, whether it be in horror movies, pornography, they were able to lie about their age. You can't do that now. You got to have all kinds of proof and stuff. But back in the day, dude, it's kind of wild when you think about that.
Yeah, I'm 18. Okay.
Okay,
that's what happened.
Come on down, take your top off. But it was was like the Wild West
And
back in the
apparently
day.
it's in the script that they're naked and there's supposed to be a sex scene and everything, and then they found out that she's only 17. They were like, whoa, all right, well, I guess that changes. So she had to put the nighty top
Keep
on.
her in her panties on and white panties and a see-through wet bra. That'll do. If you notice that, she's in a
tidy
jacuzzi.
whiteys too. Yeah,
Yo,
like they had to
dude.
keep them both clothed for the scene.
What an awkward scene that is, just in general.
Seriously.
Another thing I want to talk about that I like, that I think is kind of hysterical, because we're talking about those characters. And there's a lot of scenes like this in the movie, and it has a certain charm. I wouldn't call it great filmmaking. There are a lot of extended scenes for no reason. You've got this entire tennis scene that goes on for about 5 minutes just to pad out that runtime of an hour and 20. This movie is an hour and 23 minutes. And in reality, it's probably only a 45-minute long movie. They just pad out.
I'd give it 60, but yes,
60.
yeah, there's a lot of padding, a lot of Adam West
shots.
mugging.
Yes, dude.
Adam West drags things out.
Yeah, some of those establishing shots, they stayed on them a little longer. We're
bit.
all guilty of that as indie filmmakers even, but really dragging out that padding. And I just think, dude, that entire tennis sequence with the POV shots of zombie Tony, him clanking the bat, ging, ging, as he's walking, the black janitor reading a Fangoria,
Just sitting there reading,
just seeing them comment, thinking that the kids are having sex, but they're actually being slaughtered. He calls them those little devils.
Yep.
He says that because he thinks they're having sex.
So
but
stupid.
She's running,
Screaming for her life, help me, and he's like, those little devils.
I love the entire scene by the sheer ridiculousness of it.
It's ridiculous.
The score, it's great. It's so stupid. It's fucking great.
Sean Levy gets impaled by the blunt end of a baseball bat. He takes the fat end of a baseball bat and sticks it in his stomach and lifts him up.
Oh, dude.
Like,
so good.
How did you get that end of the baseball bat in his stomach?
And I'll be honest, this is not a gory movie either.
It's not at all. No.
Like, there's not a lot of blood. It's really just blood coming from the mouth, and that's because probably all they could afford, honestly.
Yeah.
Is the blood. Like, bleh, that's it.
Yeah, Fasano said that people asked, well, why didn't you show it going in? He's like, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
He said we can't have the money. Yep.
Everyone has a mouthful of blood in this movie, including John Fasano himself when he gets killed. Blood. Tia Carrera put up against the glass. Blood. The one dude gets smashed in the it's like a piece of machinery. Blood.
Blood.
Sean Levy.
Up in the air, blood.
Blood. Everybody has blood in their mouth. Listen, makes sense. They didn't have a lot of dough. All the budget when it came to special effects went to the zombie makeup. And that grave, I'm sure. The grave to build it, to have him come out at the very end and kill it. And Adam West, I'm sure he was not cheap to have for 2 days.
No.
This was like Adam West. Everyone knew him as Batman. I'm sure he was probably paid the most out of the entire cast.
Yeah.
I
Probably.
I think if I remember, I think I don't have the actor's name in front of me here. It's on the back here. Frank Dietz, the guy who played the younger cop, the younger detective. I think he said he got paid $900 for this, if I remember correctly.
Look,
and
Thor Betsy Palmer got $600 to play Jason's mother, to play Mrs. Voorhees.
I think
$600.
Thor said he only got $1,500 or something for this. So it's a low budget movie, and you can tell. But I'll tell you what, dude, not to like shit on,
Well, you know what? Thor did it because he thought it was going to be the beginning of a career.
Yeah, he wanted to be an actor.
Somehow his career just didn't. Like, did you know he was originally cast to play Thor in Adventures in Babysitting?
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yep. And then whatever happened, the producers found Vincent D'Onofrio and they just recast him. He got a phone call one day and said, yeah, sorry, we're going with this other guy. But he was going to play Thor. Thor was going to be Thor in Adventures in Babysitting originally.
That would have made sense. Honestly, dude, he looks like Thor. So that would have been perfect casting,
He does.
in my opinion.
Frank, this Winston boy ran with a bad crowd. High school kids, running red lights, getting drunk, smoking marijuana, the usual bad stuff.
So, Are there any cons? I know with a movie like this, it's I don't like being hard on movies like, especially when I know so much about just kind of the trouble it had behind the scenes. But if we had to be critical, and being critical on a movie like this, you can be critical about the whole 90 minutes, or in this case, 83 minutes. It wasn't even 90 minutes, because they had no budget. But is there anything that stood out to you that you fucking despised?
Despised? No. I really, like, I mean, some of the dialogue is just unbearable. Like, some of it is just really bad.
It's a given, though, dude. It's a given with a movie like this.
That's just it. It's just those, for me, with this film, it's just the things that are a product of the low budget and bad production. You know, that's really it. Like, the film itself, I think that if it had a better budget, it had a little bit more opportunity, a little bit better production as a whole, I think this could be super, super strong film. Black Roses is very well done. You know, Rock and Roll Nightmare, I've actually never seen the whole film. I've only seen parts of it. No, because it's not available. I don't think there's a Blu-ray of it.
I have a DVD of it, an old DVD I've had for years.
Yeah, I've only seen parts of it, like clips on YouTube, and that's it. You know, when I first saw this, I was like, well, I got to watch Rock and Roll Nightmare, and I only find clips. I found like a rip somewhere, and it just looked terrible.
Looked like
so
shit.
Like, I'm not even going to bother watching it this way. But Black Roses is really well done.
I love Black Roses.
It's not as well done as like Trick or Treat.
No, I wouldn't say Trick or Treat's a better movie.
But I want to see this guy and Sammy Kerr together. Like, I want a wrestling match
between Sammy Kerr and Thor.
Yes, of Tony and Sammy Kerr. I want that wrestling match. Like, I thought he was great. Like, he's not very good, but he's great because he puts everything he has into it. He really went for it. You know, he didn't leave anything behind. He wanted to do this, and you can see it, that he enjoyed doing this.
It's funny because, you know, him being a metal guy doesn't really play into the plot at all.
No.
You would think with the soundtrack.
Because that's
I know.
him, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, when you think of a movie like Rock and Roll Nightmare and you think about Black Roses and you think about this movie, it's not like the plot of this film is this metal guy comes back as a zombie and kills these kids. In reality, the rebellious kids are
Sean
the metal
Levy's
kids. He's the metal guy, where Thor is like just the shucks.
Even the
baseball
two kids,
player. Like,
even the two guys who robbed the store, they're a couple of punks.
Yeah, they have
like
mohawks.
They dress them like punks. He's the one's got the mohawk, and
worst criminals ever.
They're terrible. They're horrible.
Worst. Not good at their job at all.
Not one bit. No, you go check the back. He goes in the back and gets his ass kicked.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking this. Dude, he literally, the punch
they
that
go check
Thor
the back, and then he stands there with Mario Mozzarella.
When Thor takes the second dude out, it's like he's just grabbing him gently and like pushing him. It's like, there's nothing intimidating about these like thieves.
He fights the one guy out the door, and then the other one just kind of walks out the door like, oh, and then he turns around and kicks his ass too.
And the funny thing is, when Thor leaves the store, and I know we're going off on a tangent here about, well, there you go. Here's a nitpick. There you go. Worst criminals ever. When Thor leaves in any other movie, they'd be waiting outside to gang up and beat the shit out of him. No, not Thor. The criminals ran away, apparently.
They ran for it.
And a car is what took him out.
That's
a bunch of drunk kids.
Yeah. And again, it's meant to be that kind of correlation, but it's so weird. So want to nitpick that? Why did you have him die at the hands of anyone other than the people he just had a fight with? Why would you introduce two criminals to fight with this kid, then go later introduce two more criminals? He gets the best of them, and then another set of criminals shows up to kill him.
It's weird.
It's very disjointed in that, and like you said, the way that they made it too, you had no connection of Adam West and Sean Levy's dad. Those two characters, you'd no connection to them of the guys in the beginning.
That would be my other nitpick. Is Adam West the young detective? Like like
you
whatever.
think that the young
Adam West
detective should have figured it out.
Yeah, like whatever. Adam West is Adam West in this,
No,
so I'm like, it's whatever. But the payoff, I feel, is a little kind of like it works. It works because you realize it's him when he was younger and he was being shitty to the voodoo priestess when she was younger, and it's the same people, and he murdered the father. But I feel like they could have done something maybe mid-film, and this movie again is really short, to kind of just, you don't have to hint at it because it is a twist ending, but show the young detective doing some research. Something is wrong. Instead, Adam West is always telling him, like, oh, we caught this guy. Don't worry. You take your work home with you. Relax, have a drink, have a smoke. Like, I get what they were going for, but he comes off as more just like a douchey, I guess, like a authority figure, more than a racist kid. Like, it's weird.
There's a thing with movies where people, in general, when they're watching a film, people will be like, well, I don't want to figure out. I figured out the whole thing. I guessed the ending long in advance. But then when a movie like this comes along where you didn't see it because they kind of screwed up the delivery. Yeah. But you didn't see it coming. So it's like, you know what? Good on them. People don't like that either. Because then it feels like something's missing, that you didn't figure this out. You know, it feels like those breadcrumbs weren't there. So it's kind of like, well, no, I don't want to figure out the ending, but you kind of do. Because this movie's not that. We're not talking about Inception here.
No,
you know, it's a little low budget horror film, so you kind of want to be a little ahead of things and just not to say it's convoluted. And this is coming from guys that made a convoluted movie, and we've made a convoluted film, which I don't want to open up a can of worms with that conversation. But you know, having a convoluted ending, and this is not that at all. But it's almost too simple. Whereas, like I said, you almost forget about that opening scene. Yes, you
that
totally
happens.
Do.
You forget about it because there's no breadcrumb in the middle.
No,
leading to it.
That's what I'm saying. There's something. It feels like something's missing.
Yeah, like the editors cut something out. Like there was a scene with Adam West in the middle.
We know they screwed that up.
or like you know, like a situation where the young detective, and I know there are pictures throughout, he notices the voodoo priestess at every murder scene.
Yeah.
But it would have been cool if maybe Adam West was there too, or like he was trying to, and you're trying to figure out what is leading to this.
The detective story itself was not.
There is no real detective story, you know, and that kind of happens in these old movies. I'm pretty sure from what I remember when I remember us talking about The Sentinel. One of us even said the detective story feels a little half-assed because it kind of comes out of nowhere. Yeah. You know, there's these detectives following these murders, these string of murders. Why? Okay. We know there's a zombie killing them, but how does that play how does that play into like Adam West?
Yeah.
And then you're like, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there could have just been, maybe there is, and I missed it. I did watch it twice.
I've watched this movie a lot of times. I've in the last like maybe 2 years, I'm gonna say I've watched it maybe 7 or 8 times. No, it's just not there.
But it would have been, dude. And you know, we've said this for other films. I'm pretty sure. I think this has come up for a previous movie. But this movie would, if you could get the rights to Zombie Nightmare,
dude,
this would be a great remake.
Yep.
Kind of take his original script.
Do it the way he intended originally.
Set it in you could even set it in contemporary in 2024 and have the shitty the Adam West younger version of him in the 80s.
Yep.
You could have it be an 80s racist situation.
Give this movie to Jordan Peele and let Zealand Ardor do the soundtrack.
Yeah. Hey man, if I had the money to get the rights to it, I'd figure something out, man.
Hey, you never know. And you know what? It'd probably be difficult now just because Fasano died. If John Fasano was still around and someone were to pitch it to him, because like you said, you hear it in the commentary that he sounded very defeated with the film. Like it really
he was
meant
passionate
something.
About the original concept.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
So maybe if you could have come to him with the right pitch, he would have been like, you know what? Let's go for it.
Yeah, because think about it. You take this movie, and this is kind of my closing thought, honestly, with the whole film. It's kind of like there was a seed, a kernel of a good idea in this movie. And you know, we always talk about, you know, stuff like The Blob being remade, The Fly, superior remakes where the originals are great, but the remakes are better. This is the type of movie where if you take that original screenplay, tweak a couple things, you could make this a serious film even, not hokey at all, and tell the story of, you know, a race war or an issue happening in the 80s between a little girl being abducted and attacked, his father protecting her, being killed, and his son being killed in a similar light 30 years later, and then him being resurrected by the mother to go and get revenge, and then the twist ending with the cop and all that it would be a great movie, dude.
It would be.
It would be like Candyman, but with a zombie.
Totally.
It'd be like a Candyman type film.
I can see it.
You know, and like you mentioned, Jordan Peele and stuff, and it could work, and it would work perfectly. And it's one of those movies that I feel the remake route would be set up perfectly for it. You know, like, you don't even honestly don't have to change much of the plot. Maybe add to the script, make it 95 minutes instead of
The Rock could play Tony.
There you go. I think we'd have to cast
The Rock.
we'd have to cast someone a little younger, but yeah, you know, you just got listen, dude. It's not even joking. You know, like hearing the passion in his voice and what he wanted this movie to be, you could tell it was like.
I think the problem is that Thor would fight to play Tony again.
Yeah.
Now he would still be. He'd be like, I can do it. I can do it.
Listen, dude, you give Thor a little cameo. You have him. He could play the janitor. He could be the janitor in that scene.
He could be the coach.
Yeah, exactly.
He could be the coach. Let him play the coach. He dies in the beginning of the movie. That's it. He has an actual role. Dies in the beginning of the movie.
You can give the role to somebody. You know, you can give him the role. You know, they do that now, dude. When you watch some of these movies, a remake or a requel.
Yeah,
they have someone from the original film pop up in a little tiny, give them a line or two, and then keep them moving. You know, hey, listen, man, that's. I don't have a lot negative to say. I think this movie is a lot of. I think this movie's a lot of fun. It's definitely a crowd pleaser. Like, watch this with friends. I'm not gonna say this will be everyone's cup of tea, but if you're listening to this podcast, I think this would be
your cup of tea.
This would be your cup of tea.
When I first saw this, I fell in love. I thought this was so great. Like, I watched it, and the next day I put it on for Lynn. I'm like, you need to see this. This is so terrible, but it's so great.
It's so good. And it's got a lot of heart, man. Honestly, like, I watched the movie first, then all the commentary, the special features, the interviews, and then read a little bit more about it online, and I was like, I like this movie more. Like, just because of this guy really wanted to, you know, I almost felt bad for him. Like, I felt bad for this dude. I was like, it was just the cards that were dealt to him in making this movie just weren't in his. No, it was. He didn't have the deck, man. It wasn't him. It sucks. It really does suck, and it's just sad, the overall kind of situation he was in. And you could tell the dude just loved being. He was like a nerdy filmmaker guy, and he just loved horror movies, loved wrestling. This was probably like a dream project. Some of the people he was working with for it to just be fucking to the point where he couldn't even edit the movie. So I like, after reading about it, hearing about it, even us doing this episode, I appreciate the film more. And not saying that watching it with the Mysterious Science Theater 3000 commentary, it's also very entertaining. They poke fun at it, but it's a movie that I guess time. You know, when it comes to like so bad it's good, that's what this is. It's so bad it's good.
Totally.
But the movie was probably supposed to be good, but because of shitty producers, it went bad.
Yeah. And this release is nice too. I would, if someone like Vinegar Syndrome or whatever did like some really nice box set, I'd 100% buy it. If they re-released the soundtrack on a vinyl, I would get it. You know, oh my God. Like, I love it. I really love this movie.
It's great.
It's awesome. That's
great.
all I can say. It's a great movie.
And one of these companies, this will be my closing thought.
Somebody,
one
please.
of these somebody.
And
So
even
one of
this
these
transfer
companies
doesn't look bad. Even this does not look bad.
No, not even that. The vinyl, the soundtrack.
Oh, yes,
Someone
the soundtrack.
Get
Someone, please.
a vinyl to get with the score. Reach out to Thor.
Yep.
The score, and then maybe
Thor, do it. Oh, man.
Two vinyl, two records. The soundtrack in one, the score in the other.
Kind of hoping that he comes across us on Twitter and sees the show. You know, he's an active. He's active. He follows things that are about him. You know what I mean? He's active in promoting things that have to do with him.
Thor, if it doesn't exist, have somebody
or
somebody
just do me a favor and send me. I need good copies, please. Just send me some.
Dude, I want this. I just want the score. I want it on a vinyl, man. I want the record, man. Someone do it. Somebody do it. Thor, someone. One of these companies that's distributing fucking
Death
soundtracks.
Waltz. Death Waltz. It's
somebody
on the table.
I think Waxwork is they're too big time now. I think. I don't think they'd do this, but somebody.
Death Waltz, Vinegar Syndrome can do it.
Somebody,
you know.
Somebody release the Zombie Nightmare on vinyl. We need it. The soundtrack. We need it right now.
Frank, help! Frank, help! Frank, help me, Frank! Frank! Kill me, Frank! Frank!
So that was Zombie Nightmare. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Haunted Hangover. Head over to hauntedhangover.com and check out our Patreon page. It's the only way to support Haunted Hangover if you want to show us love. 2024, my plan is to release a lot more content over there, so keep an eye out for that.
And please be sure, give us a good rate and review so Mario Mozzarella knows how much you love the show. Mario Mozzarella is very, very. He has a weak ego. He's not very strong, but you gotta give him something. Make a Mario Mozzarella very happy.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is
zombie. More booze.
Probably the second time you've been an Italian man in the outro of the show.
But this time it fit.
Yes.